What's up YouTube? Jesse or Jesse's World, and today I'm cleaning up my mess from last weekend whenever I did the dryer duct recess. So basically this is where I'm at right now. I've got tools all over the floor. I've got this out. I gotta move the washer and the dryer and get everything all taken care of and put back, and yeah, just clean everything up, get all of the drywall dust up and all of the wood chips up, and get everything all cleaned up and put away. Alright guys, and just like that, the garage is all cleaned up except for putting the vacuum away. As far as most of the tools and all that stuff goes, I do have to still find some place to put the washer and dryer so that it's out of the way. And then the actual reason behind cleaning everything up is so I can make it a mess again. But this time, instead of working on stuff inside the house, I got to work on stuff for the car. Parts are currently in the car, but I bought 2 new tie rod ends to put on my car because I know for a fact that the one on the passenger side is loosey-goosey, and that's not good. It doesn't happen too often, and usually only once it gets real bad, but if the ball joint separates from the socket on the tie rod end, your wheel could actually just become completely loose, and you'd have no control over it. And then typically if you're driving when that happens, which would be the time that it would happen, the wheel would just like twist sideways or forward or backward or something. Probably if you're going forward, the wheel would go backwards and jam into the rest of the car and make a big old repair that you have to take care of. So I just got the parts at AutoZone. It was $40 per tie rod. I don't know if the driver's side one is necessarily bad, but considering they're both of the same age on the car, I thought it was best just to go ahead and replace the other one too. That way I don't have to run into an issue where I don't have the funds to take care of buying it and it's bad enough that I do need to replace it like ASAP. So yeah, I got the garage cleaned up. I'm going to get this washer and dryer moved around and make room so that I can get the car in here. And then I'm going to get to it, get these tie rods replaced. And Alright guys, so I'm back in the garage now. I got the car in the garage now. And as I've stated before, this garage is not heated, and so it kind of sucks right now in the winter time to be able to work on the car in here. But of course the winter time is when things always seem to go wrong with the car. I'm sure that the cold is hard on all the metal joints and greasing and all that kind of stuff. So what I got to try to help with that is I went to Harbor Freight and I got this oscillating parabolic heater. It was $39.99. It's 450 or 900 watts. And so I'm going to set it up near where I'm working at. It does say 2 heat settings, tip over safety device, timer, 120 volts. So I'm going to set it up, and right now actually, and see if it helps to keep me from freezing my butt off out here in the garage. I'll get you guys in the phone stand, and we'll do an unboxing of it, see what all comes in the package. Alright, so I already cut the tape on the top just so I could do this quicker. There's no handle on the top of it. plastic. So this is it. That's all that's in the box, along with some instructions. I don't know if it was supposed to be flipped the other way or not, but I got it plugged in. Oh, there is a handle on top. A little spot for you to put your fingers in here. It's very lightweight. Probably only weighs, I don't know, maybe 10 pounds. And these are the controls. We got, I don't know what 60, 50, whatever is, but we got oscillating on low, oscillating on high, and then there's regular low and regular high. So let's turn it. Oh, it's a timer. That's right, it said that it has a timer. So that would be your timer. So I'm just going to put it to on, and we'll turn it on to low. Whoa, that was fast. It's already putting out heat. Good. What about high? Hey, not bad. I can feel the heat all the way back here. I'm probably 2 feet from it now. 2.5 feet, maybe 3 feet from it, and I can feel the heat. And because it flips and flops like this, if I wanted to, I could just aim it straight up in the air so I could heat the room. I'm sure it's going to heat the room down like this too. Alright, well, we'll see how that does. The garage ain't real warm right now. I'm going to leave it on for a little bit while I unpack some stuff. I got to do the tie rods on my car, so I've got Duralast chassis, part number ES3614 tie rod end for my car. It was $40 at AutoZone. If I would have bought the parts ahead, I'm sure I probably could have gotten them cheaper somewhere else. But and then I got some full synthetic advanced from Walmart. I've been using it in my car for over a year, and my car is over 250,000 miles now, so it seems like it's going to be working good. I got a Mobil 1 extended performance oil filter, another quart of oil, and then I got some compressor oil because the oil in my air compressor is, well, let's just say it's no good. And some air tool oil. And then, what else? I got a new pet cock or drain cock for my air compressor because it's just no good anymore. It won't open. I haven't been able to drain the air compressor in I don't know how long. And a pneumatic tie rod separator for my air tool, and then a new regulator because I actually got my air compressor for free. It's this big beast over here in the corner. It's a Craftsman. Somebody threw it out on the side of the road because the regulator that's on it now does not work. It just jumps straight up to 90 psi and stays there. I don't know if what I got is going to fix the problem or not. I've never done this before, so we will see. Okay, so I was just looking at my air compressor, and this is not going to fix the issue with it not being adjustable. This thing's way more complex than that. It's got the auto shut off whenever it hits the right PSI there, and like all kinds of stuff on here. Big old crazy amount of things. It does currently run, and it goes up to about 90 psi and stops, which is more than enough air for me to actually use it. So I'm going to use it the way it is for now. I am going to change the oil in the air compressor before I get started, because the oil is definitely no good. Well, I don't want to burn it up. So, all right, guys. So I'm changing the oil in the air compressor, and like I said, it has been I imagine it's probably been 5 years since I changed it, but I also didn't use the air compressor very much at all. Like once or twice a year I would use it. I didn't have a garage. I didn't have a good place to plug it in at. It didn't get used very much. And I said the oil wasn't good anymore, and this is what I meant. So that's the oil coming out, and as you can see, it's got water. It's got moisture in it. See the water droplets coming out. The water droplets are actually coming out and landing on the tire, and the oil is just running down the tank. And I've got a bucket lid down there at the bottom that's catching the oil. And then, of course, I did drain a majority of it into this little 1 quart tray, or it's like a paint mixing bucket. And so I drained the oil into there first, and it looks like it takes right at a half a quart of oil. I'll probably just fill it up until I start seeing it at the top of the fill port, and I'm sure that'll be enough. But I'm going to let this drain for a while, get as much out as possible. I've got the back tire propped up on 4 2x4s, and then the front propped up a little bit too, to try to kind of make it pretty even, and so that it would drain as much out of there as possible. And then I got big old thing, 32 ounce air compressor oil, Central Pneumatic, to put in it to fill it back up. And of course, this is what the oil is supposed to look like, not like chocolate milk. I'm gonna assume that over the years that it's gotten air and or moisture inside of the tank as it's been running. For the last 3 years, it's been sitting outside, or not outside, I'm sorry, in my shed, out of the elements, but still in, moist, non-insulated areas. So hopefully I can get it cleaned up. I bought a new petcock for it to, brass drain cock for it too. Hopefully I can get the old one out without having too many issues. I don't know if we can even see it or not. The old one is down here somewhere. Oh, it's on the other side. The old one is there, and I have not been able to open it for years. So hopefully it didn't rust out to the point where I can't get it out. Here we go. That I can't get it out of there. There we go. And I'm sure there's probably going to be water sitting in the bottom of the tank. It's going to make a big old mess. But I'm trying to take care of things that I couldn't take care of before, and or things that just needed to get taken care of and I was neglecting. But I do want to keep the air compressor, and I do want to keep it working. It's how many gallons is it? Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. Let's see, 12 gallons. It's 12 gallons. Oh, I thought it was a Craftsman. It's a Sears. My bad. But it has a high CFM. Let's see, 8.5 standard CU cubic feet per minute. Let's see, air delivery. 6.9 SCFM at 40 psi. 5.8 at 90. So it'll pretty much run any tool. I mean, it even says on there spray gun, paint tank, sand blaster, caulk gun, inflator, air cleaning, air brush, and air drill. So I'm gonna let this drip out for a while, and I think I'm gonna go ahead and start cranking the car up in the air and getting the tires off of it and stuff so that I can get the tie rod replaced. I won't need the air compressor for a little while. I gotta get the tire off. I gotta get what I'm assuming is probably a castle nut off of the tie rod, and get all that stuff situated, and then I'll probably come back after I get that done and refill the oil on this. Hopefully by then it's done dripping out all that water and nasty oil, and getting on getting this tie rod off here. All right, guys. So it's probably about 15-20 minutes later, and I got the car jack off the ground. I got the jack stands under both sides, and I got the floor jack in the middle, under the middle brace, holding it up too. So I got 3 points holding the car up right now. The car is resting on the jack stands. And I don't know if you noticed, but I got the sock hat off, and my hair's a mess because I was wearing a sock hat. Well, my hair's a mess usually anyway, but the heater here, it's probably been on for, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, while I've been getting the air compressor all emptied of the bad oil, which it's pretty much down to a minimal amount of drippage coming out. It's slowed to almost nothing, but the car up now, so I'm gonna go ahead and get this this wheel off here and start working on getting things ready for the tie rod. And if you don't know, a good way to check for your tie is it's going like this. Like, that's not the wheel bearing, that's the tie rod. Because the tie rod is so loose, it's not holding the wheel solid. Alright guys, so this is the new tie rod end for my car. Hopefully you can see it okay. And first thing I'm going to do is compare it to the one that's on my car. And it appears to be the same length as the one that's on here. Yeah, it's pretty close to the same thing, so it should be alright. Let's figure out what size this castle nut is. Oh. This one actually is not a castle nut. No, 19 is kind of loose. Definitely fits more tight. came off fairly good, fairly easy. So you can actually see a little bit better whenever I move this, how loose. Here, maybe you can. I'm kind of moving myself at the same time here. How loose that is in there. I mean, obviously I got the nut loose down there, but it was like that before. I had to move that heater a little bit back because I'm starting to get kind of toasty. All right, so before I go popping the tie rod out of the steering knuckle, I'm going to try to loosen the tie rod locking nut so that it's less of an issue. Okay, so I went ahead and started getting the compressor ready to be used again. Step one of readying the compressor is I got the oil filled back up, the drain plug back in, and then I've got the oil filled up basically to the top of the reservoir, and I checked. That's not a bubble, that's actually full up to the top. And of course, in true Jesse fashion, the bottle of oil was sitting right over here, and I knocked it over, and it went and shot oil all the way across the floor. So I lost a little bit of my compressor oil. Thankfully, there was still enough in the bottle to fill up the reservoir and get the job done. Of course, now I have to clean up the oil. All right, guys, so I did get the drain cock out of the bottom of the air compressor. This is the one that was in there, and it's plugged up completely, but the hole looks fine. And whenever I took it out, a tiny little bit of air came out, so it's still holding pressure. But whenever I lifted the tank up to set it back like that, I could hear water sloshing in the bottom of it. So I need to get something to catch this water in. Okay, I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I've got this old silverware tray that when I moved into the new house, I replaced with a newer, nicer one. Hopefully this is flat enough that I can push this down and the water will just come out. So let's see what happens. Nope, that didn't work. It completely missed almost all of it. Of course, the petcock drain hole is right below, or right above this piece right here. Let's see. Maybe I can still use this tray, but because of the recesses in here, I'll just turn it sideways here. That's it. Maybe I need to tip it. Okay, so unless there is some kind of a plug in the hole, like something plugged it up, fouled it up, whatever, then that should be everything in there. Alright, so now that I got it basically empty, I did put some thread tape on the new drain cock. See if I can get this in here without dropping it on the ground. I did a dry fit before I put the thread tape on here to make sure that it would actually fit in the opening, and it does. Alright, so let's get in there. Right. Alright, that should be it for getting the air compressor back up and running. Now I should just be able to plug it in, turn it on, and be good to go. Like I said, it's going to ramp up to 90 psi, but that'll be fine with what I'm doing with it. Alright guys, so I went ahead and turned it on, and it's up here in the operating range on the gauge. It automatically shut off. And see, it's in the on position, and it's on auto, and it automatically shut off. It built pressure right up to about it stopped at about 90 ps or 95, because it's at about 91, 92 right now. It hit about 95, and then it stopped and back down to about 90. And as you can hear, or not hear, there are no air leaks anywhere. So, like I said, fresh oil, new drain plug, and I guess I'll try to monitor the oil and see if it continues to turn all milky like that. It did kind of sound like maybe it was sucking air a little bit, and it's still sitting right at about 91. I do think there is a small leak in one of the lines somewhere that takes like days to leak out. So if I was to just turn it off and just leave it sitting here, it would take a couple days, but it would leak out. It's still right there, but it would leak out over time. But now that I let that tie rod lock nut soak in WD-40 for a little while, I'm gonna see if I can't get it off. Guys, I just remembered something about taking the lock nut off of the tie rod and tightening it back down. There's actually a specific way you're supposed to do it. There's a spot right here, a flat spot, where you can put another wrench like that one, and then you can operate them opposite one another, so that you can tighten and loosen the locking nut. So I'm going to get another crescent wrench, or if I have a big enough wrench, I'll put another one on there, and we'll get this nut off here. Alright guys, so I did get the locking nut loosened up and free. It ended up taking, used a wire brush on the threads behind the nut, and cleaned up the threads real good. Well, not real good, I just cleaned them up. And then I was able to get my, I got my Weller propane fuel torch, and I sat it on the nut for probably only about 60 seconds or so, and was able to use just the crescent wrench and my hammer hitting on the crescent wrench to get that thing to budge. And as you can see, it's moving pretty freely now. I don't want to touch it with my hands yet because it's probably still hot, but it is free. So I'm going to give that a few minutes to cool off, and then I've already got it set up. I got my air hammer ready. I got to change out that tip for that one over there. It's the tie rod tip. I've already got the nut off the bottom here, so get that tie rod separator in there and we'll pop that bad boy right out. Guys, real quick, since I got to change out this tip anyway, obviously most people, well, I don't know if most people, but I know that I did not know this until I got this air hammer or air chisel or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, air hammer. But this spring piece is actually designed to be easily taken on and or put on and taken off using these 2 points. The one closest to the tip of the air hammer here, this one, or not the tip, to the base of the air hammer here, this one is for removing it, because whenever you press it this direction, it relieves the tension on the spring and allows it to come off. And then this one is for installing it, because it does the same thing. It relieves the tension but allows it to return the other direction. But if you try to take it off with this one, it won't come off with this one. You have to use this one. And then you just spin it around and you can easily remove whatever tip you have in your air hammer. So for this one, I have to put the tip in the spring first because it's a little bigger and doesn't like to fit. So we'll get the tip in first and then put it in the air hammer. And then again, like I said, we'll get it lined up here. The top is actually the part you use to seat the tip onto the air hammer, and it don't have to be real tight. Yep, there we go, just snugged it up, and now it's ready to go. And that thing is really stuck in there. All right, so it's out. And now, just the part that I figured probably would be an issue is there are also there's also a spot. Let me grab this. There's a spot up here where it's like a bolt all the way around. So what I'm going to do is grab that with one crescent and grab this spot back here with the other and see if this thing's going to twist off here easy or if it's going to give me trouble too, just like the nut did. So I'm going to bring you back after I figure out how bad this is going to be. Alright guys, so I finally got the outer tie rod on the passenger side off. This is what it took to get it off. I jammed this wrench onto the locking nut section of the steering shaft, and then used 2 hands and the crescent wrench on this side and just pried, and it came finally off. So that did work, and then I hand tightened the nut down to about where it was at, and I screwed the tie rod end off, counting the number of times I did a full rotation, and it was exactly 23 rotations to get the old one off. And here is the old one. And of course I mangled the boot using the tie rod separator, but that's okay, have a new one. Alright guys, so here is the new one. Right there's the new one, there's the old one. They pretty much look the same, except for it looks like the top of this one is just a little thicker right here. They look to be pretty much the same length. Here, let's try and stack them up here. I'm trying to do this off my side here. They look to be the same length. Maybe just a tiny... Wait, no, it's not far enough up. Yeah, they look the same. Aside from this one's trashed and this one's not. So this one, as you can see, did come with a castle nut and, oh, where is it? A cotter pin to put in said castle nut. So that'll be a lot better, because this one, this style is a lot harder to get off, and if you look, they actually have to use more material to make this one, because it's so much longer up here. This one, you just cinch it down a little bit and then line up the slot, or the hole with the slot on the castle nut, and then put the cotter pin in. So it should be a lot easier to get on and take off if I need to replace it again in the future, which I'm sure I very well might. Alright, so I went ahead and took my Dremel tool, my multi-speed Dremel tool, or my, what do they call it? Variable speed rotary tool from Chicago Electric, and I used the metal tip here. I'm gonna get this to focus here. The wire brush tip and the one of the sandpaper pieces, and I went down in the hole and I cleaned out the inside of the hole, got it all nice and smooth. Yeah, there we go. And then I cleaned off the mating surface up here and on the bottom. The bottom is definitely a lot rougher. I don't even know if I can see it or not. Yeah, it's a lot rougher, but I cleaned it off pretty good. And so I'll go ahead and get the new one installed and get it all put back together. Hopefully I'll be able to move on to the other side pretty quickly. Alright guys, so the new tie rod is in. The lock nut is tightened down to the tie rod, as tight as I can possibly get it. The castle nut is on with the cotter pin through it. I could only get one side of the cotter pin to go through. I don't know why. Maybe the metal on this, the thickness of this knuckle is thicker than what the specifications were, but I tightened that castle nut down real tight to the knuckle, and still could not get both sides of the cotter pin to go through the hole. So there's one through at least, and then I bent it down, of course. So that should hold, and the nut's pretty tight on there anyway. But that's basically it. It's what I've spent hours trying to accomplish, between fixing the air compressors so I could use the air hammer to get the tie rod off. And yes, I know they make manual tools that you can use to get that off too, like a hammer and a pickle fork deal that you can use. But that being fixed has been needed to be done for a while, and so I figured I would use needing to use my tools as an excuse to actually fix that. And so yeah, I'm going to get the wheel. I'm going to put some brake clean on here and clean off where I touched it with my arm and stuff, and then I'll get to putting the wheel back on and doing the other side, and hopefully the other side goes a lot faster than this one did, now that I've got a few ideas on how to do this and that, and get this part and get that apart, and yeah, just hopefully it goes a lot faster. I'm not going to record that one. It's the same thing, just on the other side. It did, or hopefully the 23 turns on the new tie rod end was about where it was before. My alignment should be roughly the same as it was before, just the no wobble in the tire. As a matter of fact, look, remember how whenever I took the tire off the first time, I showed you that if I grabbed the brake I could shake it because it had a bad tie rod? Look, nothing. I mean, there's a little wiggle in there from the from something, I don't know. Oh, the caliper. Of course, these two pieces are not directly attached, they're just on the slides. But as far as like actual wiggle, nothing. Doesn't do anything. It's solid. So guys, I think that I'm gonna call that a wrap on this video. I'll go get the other side done, and then I'll clean up my big mess and take the car out for a test drive and see how she handles. I think that the tire here, I think this stuff, obviously I need to get new tires soon, not immediately, but I think this tearing here is from tire wobble. From the tie rod, so hopefully that gets better. But I just about fell. Anyway, you guys have a good night. It's currently about 9 p.m. So again, I really hope the other side doesn't take nearly as long, now that I have an idea about how this car in particular likes to come off the easiest way. And I'll get her taken care of, get the other one taken care of, and be done. Have a good night. Like, share, subscribe. If you enjoy the content, I'll try not to make it too boring whenever I edit it for you. This is the mess that accumulates when you work on your own vehicle. I got the torch, I got the impact gun, I got hammers and crescent wrenches and grease and wire brushes and more wrenches and air tools and lube and sockets and rotary tools. And here's my regular toolbox, and I mean, just the mass of stuff that you accumulate whenever you're working on your own car. I'll get it all cleaned up.